In this video, I want to show you how to use Excel to do unit conversions. Unit conversions are a very common task in hydrology, and Excel makes them really easy. So let's take a very common example. We're given, say, a discharge Q in terms of cubic feet per second. So 35 cubic feet per second, and we want to convert that into the metric unit of cubic meters in terms of years, meters cubed per year. So how do we do that in Excel? So let's go to Excel, and here it is. My task is to convert 35 cubic feet per second into cubic meters per year. So let me first talk about some sort of generic conversions. Let's say we want to convert feet to meters. I don't remember what the feet to meters conversion is. I could Google it, but the beauty is Excel knows all kinds of conversions, and they're embedded in a really useful function called the convert function. And this is the way it works. Let's say I want to convert the generic feet to meters. I want to convert generically 1 foot. What is the equivalent in meters? I'm going to use the convert function, and it works like this. I type equals convert, that's the function, open parentheses. And now Excel is going to tell me what it expects. It expects 3 different arguments here. It expects a number from one unit to the other unit. So those are going to be the 3 arguments: the number, the units from, the units to. Now, because this is generic, I'm just going to put the number 1. I want to convert 1. And now when I'm time to enter the argument for units, it's going to show me all the possible units that it knows. It knows all of these things. It's really cool. Now this includes degrees, feet, length, time, volume. In this case, we want feet, and feet is sort of in here somewhere. I just happen to know, there it is. There's some feet right there. Okay, there are some lengths right there, feet. I could actually just double click this, and notice it puts my unit in quotes. Really important. The units are always in quotes, and it's going to convert that to, I had to put a comma here, and it's going to show me all the to units. The units it can convert the unit of length, feet, to. Now it's just showing me the units of length it knows, and it knows all of these things. I could convert feet to angstroms, picas, light years, parsecs, but what I want is the first one, which is meters, and notice it's the small m in quotes. I'm just going to actually type the small m in quotes here. One thing really important to notice is that in these unit names here, they're case sensitive. So capital F small t is not the same thing. That is not feet. Feet is small f small t. So you have to pay attention to that. So let's look at the function here. It says convert 1, the generic 1 unit of from feet to meters, return, and there you go. All right, that's the conversion from 1 foot to 1 meter. There are 0.3048 meters in a foot. So a foot's a little less than 1/3 of a meter. Now, very commonly, like we have in our problem, we want to convert cubic feet to cubic meters. And there's actually 2 ways that you can do this. So the first one is again a generic conversion from cubic feet to cubic meters. The first way is to use the convert function just exactly as I did before. So equals convert 1 foot to meter. And then I'm going to take this entire function and cube it. I'm going to raise it to the 3rd power. There it is. That is the conversion of 1 cubic foot to 1 cubic meter. Now, the second way to do this is actually really cool. And I only learned this from a student who pointed this out to me. But how cool is this? So Excel is actually smart enough to allow you to raise your units to exponents within the quotations in the formula convert. So I can write equals convert generic from 1 cubic feet. Now notice what I'm going to do here. Normally I would just put foot cubed, right? That's the unit of feet. But now I'm going to put foot ft cubed, end quote. That's a unit of volume, to meters cubed, end quote. So notice carefully what I've done. So both of the things in quotes are volumes. They're both created by raising to the 3rd power one of the units that convert knows, and parentheses. There you go. That's super cool, right? So in this case now, we actually have a couple ways we can do this. We have, let's say we're given again 35 cubic feet per second, and we want to convert that to cubic meters per second. Let's just do the numerator, the upper part first, cubic meters per second. So I can say, well, one thing I could do is I could say, okay, I'll just take the value, that 35, which is in B7, and I'm going to multiply that by the conversion factor from cubic feet to cubic meters, the one I used in cell B4. So I'm going to take the conversion factor, the general one from cubic feet to cubic meters, cube the whole conversion factor, right? There you go. Or I could use the second method where I embed the cubing within the convert function. I could say, okay, take B7 times the conversion factor of feet cubed, now within the quotes, to meters cubed within the quotes. There we go, same answer. Or instead of actually going the number times the conversion factor, I could just directly say convert 35 from cubic feet to cubic meters like this. So directly convert what? Not just 1, but no, 35, the number in B7, from cubic feet to cubic meters. There you go. 3 different ways to do it. All right, that's the numerator. What about the denominator? Now, this is really important. When we convert, now we're talking about, we want to convert the seconds to years. Seconds are in the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction. So when we go through the conversion, I mean, Excel very well knows how to convert seconds to years, but the point is that conversion happens in the bottom of the fraction. So I want to take my number and I want to divide it by the conversion from seconds to years, which Excel does through the convert function. So if I have cubic meters per second, there we did it 3 different ways, right? Let's say I want to do now cubic meters per year. Let's get that out of there. I'll take any of these numbers here, right? And I'm going to divide it by the conversion factor from seconds to years. So let's just take equals B11, that's my number, right? In cubic meters per second. Divide by the conversion factor, general, from, what did I say? Seconds to years. YR is years. Look at it carefully. So the number divided by the conversion factor from seconds to years, and there you go. There is my Q in cubic meters per year. I started with cubic feet per second, and I got to cubic meters per year. Now, I want to make one more observation, is that a clever student would recognize that I can actually do all this in one step. If I want, I could do Q, just write that again here. I could do this directly by saying, well, take my number B7, that's cubic feet per second. First, multiply the conversion factor of the numerator, which is converting what? Feet cubed to meters cubed, right? That converts the numerator. And now divide by the conversion factor of the denominator, which is taking seconds to years. I can do it that way. That works, right? First convert the numerator, then convert the denominator. Boom, we did it all in one step. We got exactly the same answer. That is a good way to do it, but in my mind, it's not the best way to do it. I actually think you're better off going first, let's just highlight these, first doing the numerator, and then doing the denominator. And the reason for that is we can use our intuition there, right? When we combine the two, sometimes we lose sight of whether or not we did it right. I mean, sometimes we forget and we multiply when we should have divided. Sometimes we use, instead of using feet to meters, we use meters to feet because we're not thinking right. But we know something, like we know at the beginning, we know that a meter is a longer unit of length than a foot. So when I convert 35 cubic feet to 35 cubic meters, it should be a smaller number, right? Meters are longer than feet. So cubic meters should be less than cubic feet. And I can see that right away, right? If I do the intermediate step, there it is. 0.99 is less than 35. So it looks like I did that conversion right. And then it's similarly when I do the step in the denominator now, right? I'm converting meters cubed per second to meters cubed per year. There's a whole lot more seconds in a year, right? So this means that the cubic meters per year should be way larger than cubic meters per second, and I can immediately see that. Here's cubic meters per second. Here's cubic meters per year. The only difference is the denominator, and it makes sense that I should have way more cubic meters per year than cubic meters per second. So that makes sense. When I combine the two effects, sometimes it's hard to sort of figure out whether you've done it correctly. So although you can do it this way and go directly to the right answer, there's nothing wrong with that. I prefer to do it first the numerator and then the denominator, just so that I can use my intuition to check that I've done each one correctly. I want to make one final comment about conversions, and that is within the metric system, there are two conversions that you really should be able to do without even a spreadsheet. And those are the metric units that start with milli or kilo. So for example, we have the millimeter and we have the kilometer. We pronounce it kilometer, not kilometer. Kilometer, right? Millimeter, kilometer. Millimeter means 1,000th of a meter. Kilometer, kilo means 1,000 times a meter. And I think most of you know this. But the reason that you should sort of memorize is because it actually things you can do right away without even really having to use any functions at all in Excel. So a very common example is in the metric system, we might measure precipitation. I'll put it here. Precipitation is in the metric system is very often millimeters per year. And let's say we measure 385 millimeters per year. First thing we might want to do is convert that to meters per year. I could use the convert function, but really I should know that there are 1,000 millimeters in a meter. You don't have to memorize all the different metric prefixes, but milli and kilo are just so common you should memorize them. So knowing that there are 1,000 millimeters per meter, I can immediately say that this is just 385 divided by 1,000, and since it's the metric system, I can just do that by inspection. Similarly, if I have the a length here in kilometers is 2.5 kilometers, I ought to just by inspection go, oh, I know what that is in meters because I know there's 1,000 meters per kilometer. So I can just multiply by 1,000. That's just moving the decimal place 3 places to the right. So that's 2,500 meters. Those kind of conversions you should be able to do in your head immediately, milli and kilo. Okay, so just those are two that you should probably know, be able to do right away. The others, and there are many of them, and there are many of them that go between English and metric and go between English and English, right, that are really weird, like miles and feet. You're not going to need to memorize those because Excel knows them all. Excel can do all of those through the convert function. Learn how to use it. It will save you so much time and it will avoid so much error.